the lost World War II trick that turns mud into drinking water. No filter, no tablets, just salt. They said it was impossible, turning filthy swamp sludge into crystal-clear drinking water using nothing but a pinch of salt. No tablets, no filters, no gadgets, just pure chemistry and wartime grit. Sounds like a myth, right? But during World War II, when soldiers' canteens ran dry and disease-filled puddles were the only option, this simple salt trick became the difference between dehydration and survival. Welcome to History's Survival Code, where forgotten genius meets timeless survival. Because today, we're diving into one of the most underrated hacks ever pulled from the chaos of World War II. A hack so simple, so raw, it still works better than half the overpriced gear sitting in modern bug-out bags. When water became a battlefield. In World War II, clean water was more valuable than bullets. Soldiers weren't just fighting enemies. They were fighting dehydration, heat, and disease. Imagine marching for days through jungles, deserts, and swamps, only to find the nearest water source looking like liquid mud. But here's the hard truth. More men died from waterborne diseases like dysentery, cholera, and typhoid than from combat in several campaigns. The enemy wasn't always holding a rifle. Sometimes it was hiding in a dirty puddle. You know, purification tablets were standard issue back then, but oh boy, they ran out in the blink of an eye. Filters, well, they clogged up, broke down, or were just too darn heavy to carry on those long marches. And when resources vanished, the soldiers did what soldiers do best. They improvised. That's when a few sharp-minded engineers and medics stumbled upon a discovery so wild it sounded like witchcraft. Just add salt to muddy water, give it a good stir, wait a bit, and then just watch it clear itself. The moment chemistry met survival. This wasn't some lab experiment. No, sir. It happened right there in the mud, under the relentless sound of gunfire. When soldiers in the Pacific or North African campaigns scooped up murky swamp water into their canteens, they'd toss in a pinch of ordinary table salt. Then they'd stir it with whatever they had on hand, maybe a stick or the edge of a knife, and wait. Within minutes, something strange happened. The heavy brown sediment began clumping together and slowly sinking to the bottom. What was left above looked surprisingly clear. Not purified yet, mind you, but clear enough to boil. And that was a real game changer. No filter, no fabric straining, just basic chemistry doing quiet work. The science behind the trick. Here's where it gets brilliant. The secret behind this hack is a process called flocculation. It's not magic, it's pure science. The same principle used in modern water treatment plants today. Muddy water stays dirty because it's full of tiny particles of clay, silt, and organic matter, all carrying electrical charges that repel one another. That charge keeps them floating, refusing to settle. When you add salt, sodium chloride, it increases the water's ionic strength, neutralizing those charges. Once the electrical barrier breaks down, those particles start sticking together, forming heavier clumps known as flocks. Gravity takes it from there, pulling them down to the bottom and leaving the upper layer visibly clear. That's chemistry doing its part in survival mode. Salt doesn't make the water safe to drink by itself. It clarifies it, making the next step, boiling or disinfecting, faster and more effective. Instead of boiling a pot of sludge, soldiers could now boil mostly clear water, saving time, fuel, and maybe their lives. The forgotten genius of improvisation, really came to light during World War II. It wasn't just about weapons. It was about brains under pressure. Soldiers out there in the field didn't have pristine lab equipment at their disposal. What they had were helmets, canteens, and, well, a deep desire not to die. Reports from Allied troops mention using this salt trick in, multiple regions. Some would even mix salt with ash when they were desperate, but the salt-only version was quicker and, honestly, a lot less messy. This trick didn't come from any manual. It spread through word of mouth, foxhole to foxhole, unit to unit, until before long, it became one of those field secrets everyone swore by. Salt became more than just a condiment back then. It was a wound cleaner, meat preserver, and water clarifier, all in one. A tiny pouch of white grains turned into, well, a survival multi-tool. And that's the real lesson here. When knowledge meets necessity, even the simplest things can become life-saving. Why does this trick still work today? Well, fast forward to now and, we've got all these high-end filters, UV pens, chemical drops, and even portable desalination gadgets. But here's the thing. All those tools can fail. They break, they run out, they clog, or heck, they just drain their batteries. But salt doesn't. Salt is cheap, light, and honestly, just about everywhere. A single packet in your survival kit can really give you a fighting chance when you're staring at a muddy stream or a stagnant puddle. Now, it's not a replacement for purification. It's more like a pre-step that gives you cleaner, safer water to disinfect. So here's how it still works, step by step. Add a pinch of salt to your murky water, give it a good stir, and then just let it sit. For light sediment, half an hour might do the trick. For thicker sludge, you'll want to give it an hour or more. When the water clears, pour it gently into another container, leaving the mud behind. Then, boil it or disinfect it however you can. Heat, iodine, or even sunlight if that's all you've got. That's it. No fancy setup, no complicated gear, just knowledge and action. The power of knowing instead of owning. Let's be real. In the survival world, people obsess over equipment. The newest filter, the lightest purifier, the shiniest solar gadget. But the salt trick reminds us of something bigger. Gear is temporary, but knowledge is forever. The soldiers who discovered this weren't chemists. They were survivors. They understood that when all else fails, the laws of nature don't. Knowing how water behaves gives you power. Power that no battery or tech can replace. And yes, salt has its limits. It won't remove bacteria, viruses, or chemical toxins. It can make the water a bit salty if you overdo it. But in a life or death scenario, when every drop matters, that trade-off is a small price to pay. This forgotten World War II hack isn't just about water, it's about mindset. When the world was falling apart, survival came from understanding, not equipment. Turning mud into clear water with a handful of salt was more than a trick. It was proof of what human creativity can do under pressure. Every grain of salt carried a reminder. Sometimes, the tools we need most are the ones we already have. So the next time you're out camping, training, or thinking about what you'd do if the grid went down, remember this. A pinch of salt, a bit of patience, and a solid grasp of science can turn despair into survival. And if this kind of forgotten brilliance from the past fires you up, make sure you hit that subscribe button and join the History Survival Code crew. We dig up the real lessons that history tried to bury. The ones that could still save your life today. Because when the lights go out and the gadgets stop working, knowledge, like clean water, will be worth its weight in gold.